We want to have a life that had meaning. We want to have a life that when it's over, it made a difference in the world and that we got to experience ourselves uniquely.
Welcome to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast, a weekly podcast providing career and creative inspiration to help you build a purpose-filled life. If you're interested in tapping into your creative potential, pursuing a career with passion, and building on your biggest and best resource, yourself, please join me on this path. I'm your host, Nancy Moore, and I want you to know that I'm on this journey with you. So let's get started. Okay, this week on the podcast, I have an exciting guest who is absolutely very interesting, very informative, and life-giving. Do you need guidance on pinpointing your passion or navigating your path to purpose? If so, you're going to enjoy this conversation with David Leifeste. He is an experienced, actually almost 40 years of experience, counselor, life coach, and executive coach. And he does a lot of work with people, helping them with life coaching and helping them find their purpose. So he is interested and invested in people maximizing their potential and discovering the life they were born to live. So he has got a new book coming out in January that's called The Possibility of You, the O.A.S.I.S method to unlocking a life of purpose and passion. So you know that I love that. And we talk about different advice and information that is just stuff that you can take and run with today. But he also explains this new method that is a structure with the O.A.S.I.S word being O.A.S.I.S. It's an acronym, each meaning something different. And he talks about each part of that structured method that he has come up with. It's a kind of a proven method and how that can help you. So you guys sit back and relax, or if you're exercising, have a great workout. If you're listening to this over coffee, just enjoy this episode and getting to know David. The book will be out in January, so I'll be talking to him a little bit more as time goes on, and then again in January when the book comes out. I am excited to have you hear from David Leifeste. So when I met you, because we have a mutual friend, Carol, who is our mutual friend.
We love Carol.
We love Carol.
She's the most amazing human, one of them I've ever met.
I agree.
Yes.
Yes.
Powerful.
And I need to link her podcast again too. Carol Matthews is who we're talking about, and I have had her on the podcast. But so she connected us. And when I went into your office, and do you remember I was with my daughter?
I do, yeah.
And it was a very comfortable atmosphere. You were so warm and welcoming. You made me the best tea that I've had.
Well, that's pretty exciting.
The best.
Remember what I did there.
So anyway, but some people I think are more open. They're just easy to talk to, easy to open up to. But it's interesting the background that you had with working with all sorts of people.
Yeah.
Prior to opening your own practice.
Yes, it was really helpful because, and I think that's what we're wanting to have your audience and the listeners be aware of. It's kind of a scavenger hunt. You know, there's not like a map with say go this direction, 14 miles, turn to the right for 12, and then it'll be off to your left, and you'll be there.
Do you wish it were like a hard map?
That would be so much. Well, it would be so easy.
Yeah.
Right. It would be an adventure to it.
Yeah.
So I say if we can feel the confidence and build the courage to take an adventure in your life, right? To make it an adventure, to be aware that it isn't already preset with all of that. It's like Dr. Seuss, other places you'll go. You may turn your left, you may turn right. You may have to turn right 3/4 and go in from behind. It's hard for a mind maker ever to make up his mind. It's the weirdest, wild, open spaces. I mean, I love that book because he so frames what all of us think is going to be easy and should be very, very natural is oftentimes overwhelming. Right. And I just want I don't want people to be reacting to feeling overwhelmed like there's something wrong with them and then get hijacked by that spiral. I want you to just say, okay, this is how it is. It's a big open space out there. It's me. It's my heart. It's my talents. It's kind of what I enjoy, and I'm just trying to allow, what I know and experiences that I create and what comes my way all come together and become crystallized into some sense of framework and direction. So it's kind of organic. Now, a lot of us, I think, get in front of it when we don't understand that, and we start like forcing it together to get something. I think that's the common sort of reaction to not feeling comfortable waiting and feeling like maybe there's something wrong if you're having to wait, is that you start forcing some things together, and you get like a partnership, you get a lifestyle, you get like a job, and you go, okay, I've got it all set. But a lot of times later, what I find those folks do is they say, that's not really me. I'm really finding that not bringing me joy, and it's not very meaningful, and I'm getting, either overwhelmed by it or stressed out by it or not happy with it. And then they have to start taking things apart, which is fine. We take it apart and rebuild it, right? Or reorient ourselves, course correct, right? But what I love about a lot of the folks that you're working with, the students, and when I work with young people as well, is we get them before they start putting too much cement down, right? Build a foundation, right? So I say, okay, look, let's just slow down and celebrate the fact that you're aware that you don't know. You're asking someone to help you know you and get some guidance. There's all kinds of resources for ways to gather more information about the world, about you, about your interests. So slow down, take your time a little bit, and let yourself discover it. So we got that natural thing of I've got to get it figured out. I need to get it established. I need to get it now. And that gives me the left brain loves that, by the way, because it's all about certainty. The left hemisphere part of our brain is all about let's get things set up and let's get it certain and let's get it solid and let's get it secure so we don't have to worry about the what ifs, and have to deal with the uncertainty. And the right brain side saying is that you and I love to talk about the passion, the purpose. That's really kind of a right brain part of the mental functioning. It says, look, we want to have a life that had meaning, right? We want to have a life that when it's over, it made a difference in the world, and that we got to experience ourselves uniquely, in our special, like you said in your website, with your knowing what your special sauce is and your superpower, and that you used it regularly in your life to bring the part of you that's unique to our world. Nothing's more, I think, fulfilling, energy bringing than when you're working from that, when you're working from that sense of the why you're here, your purpose. Now, some of us have more dramatic kind of versions of that, and some of them are, less perhaps so. But whatever it is, the important thing is it's what yours is, and that you accept it, and that you honor it, and that you bring it. And in doing so, I find that generates the most productivity in your life. That usually flourishes, and to whatever degree it does, you set up your lifestyle in accordance, and then it all kind of feels like it's going to be okay. I talked way too long.
No, I love that. There's so many things that I'm thinking in my mind. So what advice would you give to people of any age on how to slow down and not, again, the students that I have at Tulsa Community College, they are just wanting everything right now. They want to know what they're going to do, who they're going to marry, or, their career. And how do you, or what advice would you have for people not being in a rush?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because I'm a very, very rushing person.
So am I. I am too.
I know. I think you and I are so similar. I was looking at your Myers-Briggs and your Enneagram, and I go, okay, I think Nancy and I are like a brother and sister from another mother.
Yeah.
Well, so what I was thinking the other day is that, what are we rushing toward? I think it's good to take the brain and say where it's trying to take you is, the future is like when it's over. It's like going toward death. So if you thought about, I was born and then I'm going to die, and you go, okay, why am I rushing to the finish line? The right now is the best it's ever going to be. Be here, be now. Then the next minute's the best moment there is. And then the next moment's, relatively speaking, it's the best moment there is with whatever's ahead and we don't know. So don't miss the best moments, and don't miss the times. And the best moment will be the moment you're in all the way to the very end, right? But if you're always somewhere else ahead, you're not in the best moments. And not only the best moments, but the moments where you have the power to set the future up by investing in the future, by doing something, because you can only do something in the now. The now is where you have power. Eckhart Tolle wrote a book, The Power of Now. He's a German philosopher. And
I love him, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all about getting this Western culture that's so about future, all about getting somewhere else to get you back and grounded in the now where life is happening. Be present, be here, be now. So as I be here and be now, and I pick up on what, like Nancy and I are talking about today, and wherever this goes with Nancy and I on our podcast, and wherever we go moving forward, this is where something else is being seeded for tomorrow. This is where we have to be mindful to, what am I to be doing with that? What am I to be doing to cultivate what this is right now? Because that's something that in this moment, I really love being here with Nancy in her studio, home office podcast on a beautiful Monday morning. And she's just a wonderful person doing a lot of what I want to do, which is help people identify their purpose, right? And support their passion and have a sense of support and encouragement and tools and reality to deal with as you try to do your dreams. And so I thought, wow, let's be present to this and let's make the most out of this and let's see where that goes. That's going to bring organic outcomes out of the seeds of something I truly believe in and truly love. So when you're in these moments, you're being present to, is this a moment I love? Is there something here? Be present to that, because whatever grows out of that has the most optimal outcome possibilities for setting up your what's next that will become your life.
Oh, I love that. So loving the moment, because that's going to grow into a what's next.
Yes, especially some moments, and some other moments we need to be present for other reasons, but a lot of the moments that you're missing are the moments that are the seeds of that really, really good stuff that you're wanting to grow more of in your future. And so secondly, I would say, the left brain would say, but give me some data, right? So I always remind people that we need data on ourselves, knowing ourselves really honestly and really accurately and well, so that the decisions we're making about what we do next are in response to that truth, that they're synced up, they're aligned, and therefore will support and encourage the right stuff in you and of you to become formed. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So if you're working off what mother or daddy or Jesus thinks you were supposed to be as you thought in your mind, and that's an outside force, which I call that outside in living versus inside out. I'm looking at the society, I'm looking at the, at the status, I'm looking at my friend with the big house, I'm looking at, mom, maybe in your Catholic families, they like the sons to be the priest. So I'm clicking and I'm going, if I start reacting to these externals, these outside, and then I start trying to be in response to that, what it takes to fulfill that, I'm hijacking my own life on behalf of appeasing something and something outside of me, which generally is not what is going to bring you contentment, fulfillment, and even the best success. Because it wasn't based on you. It was based on what someone else wanted you to be, or what else you thought would get you something that you thought is what would make you happy. Mm-hmm. Now, most of us are terrible at predicting what's going to make us happy. That's why I say be careful what you wish for, because you'll probably get it, and then it might not, most likely, oftentimes, not be what you thought, and it won't be bringing you the kind of fulfillment. So you don't want to be working outside in. You want to work inside out. To work inside out, you've got to know the material of who you are, and a couple of very practical things to do. When I worked at TCC, I was a career advisor for part of the profession, part of the journey. So we had a program, and I don't know if you still have it there, the Career Exploration is what we call it.
Yes, and I actually give that to my students.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
Well, I feel like it's a great start to getting some more information about who you are, right? So you get your interest inventory and aptitude test and your personality test and your lifestyle work values test.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And
yes.
so then now we've got some objective data. The left brain's saying, give us some information to work with, soul, you passionate person who wants to go live your life and fulfill your dreams and have meaning and have a really wonderful, rich life that made a difference in the world. Mm-hmm. But let's get some information down. And so testing is a great way to get some information you may not fully know about yourself, and that gives you some really great. So in those tests, as you know, you'll get aptitude, like what is your brain naturally bent toward, right? Mine is not bent toward, engineering probably, right? I would just look at a lot of that stuff and go, first of all, I don't even know why this even. I can't even begin to start with it. There's no natural aptitude for left brain physics, right? Engineering stuff. So the aptitude test will clarify quickly where are your natural strengths in terms of how your brain processes data, right? Then your personality. How do you want to take your talents, your gifts, your interests, and how that expressed in what you do? And then what about your lifestyle? If you want to be someone who likes a lot of work-life balance, you're probably not going to want to go in medicine, right? So it's going to start putting some type of alignment to lifestyle and how work fits with that. I noticed a lot of younger people really love their Fridays off. They're very big on having their work-life balance, I think, in reaction to us, their parents, who were a bit over the extreme on the other side of work.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's good to do. Secondly, another way to get data on yourself is, people who know you well. People like your mentors, if you have a therapist or a coach, if you have a parent who knows you well, if you anybody who you feel like might know you better than you know yourself with life experience is usually helpful. Thirdly, I feel like getting and being very intentional about creating experiences. Experiences are the best way to know how you feel about things, not what you think you know theoretically. It's what happens when you have certain experiences. Right? Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden you're on a trip and all of a sudden you're in this beautiful place and you're going, I am having a very strong response to the beauty of the French Riviera or to Arkansas in the mountains. I love outside. I love nature. That's one thing I noticed about myself. I'm always talking about trees and I'm always wanting to go outside, and I'm always planning and buying more trees in my yard. I'm planting trees in my office. So, more and more I'd like go, when I built my office building, I did an outdoor patio space because I realized I'm not an indoor person. I need to be outside, but how am I going to do coaching and therapy, and still be out in the woods all the time? That really kind of strange. So I got the patio, got the trees, opened the doors up, sit out there with clients. Next thing I do is buy a convertible, open it up, be out in the open, because that I'm finding out later on in life is a lot of my joy. So if I can feel the sun, if I can have green around me, if I can be outside in the fresh air, if I can move in it. I've also started walking clients 25 years ago, the talking and walking instead of just sitting. So we would move, we'd be outside together. So experiential data on yourself. When you're out and you're about and you're feeling, you're picking up on something, pay attention and start responding to that. And little by little, your life starts reformatting in response to those actions you took, in response to that passion you felt, that sense of joy that you felt, that sense of exhilaration or freedom.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like there are so many ways that we're similar. And I always, even if it's cold out, I have my sunroof open. I love being outside. Yes. Okay, so I spoke with Dr. Kathy Campbell last week, and she is another mutual friend of ours. And it's funny because we were talking about insight into finding direction and purpose, but I feel like you just answered that. But she said, you need to ask David about that.
She says, I don't want to do that. I'll see what David will say with it. Well, yeah, it is so about knowing you and paying attention to what's happening inside of you, and then understanding what you're picking up on.
See that?
Then
Let me.
honoring that.
Okay. Yes. So people, though, I think get stuck on autopilot, and they're moving through their day. And then wake up the next day again. And so, is there advice maybe for how to get out of that and really think about what you want to be doing, where you want to be?
Yeah, that's so important. You'll hear all this, stuff now these days on meditation. We're now finally, in fact, when I started out in 1984 doing biofeedback, neurofeedback in my for St. John, and was working on helping people know their body, you'd hook up all these leads to them. So you'd get brainwave activity, and you'd get, skin temperature and sweat gland activity and heart rate, and put that up in front of them on the screen and go, look, you are stressed, because you don't even know anymore. You're so in the rat race of your life and on the hamster wheel of your mind that you're not even paying attention to your body. And so I would show them, and then I would show them if they breathed, and if they stopped, and if they quieted the mind, if they stayed on this particular mental focus, the body would respond to that. All those graphs and colors would all change into what's considered peaceful and relaxed. And so learning to connect the body and the mind and getting us present. As Westerners, we're really, really not good at that. We're about getting somewhere else and getting there fast, right? And overcoming and being driven and accomplishing and out there. So we're looking to get more present in the now and get connected to the body as we do that. So meditation, taking time, in the morning before I even get out of bed, I just try to stop and be present to, before I even got out of bed, I wrote 5 or 6 people text to check on how they're doing. A man lost his wife last week. Another friend of mine and client, he died, with his family's dealing with that. My sister's dealing with her child in Atlanta. So I just took a minute and kind of checked in on my people, and just to check in and to make sure everyone's okay. Then I was looking at the day and I thought, oh my gosh, it's wonderful. I get to see Nancy this morning. I was thinking of those things I really find as the highlight moments, the parts that will drive me forward and I'm really excited about. I want to be really ready for, because they represent the kind of things I really believe in and passionate about and want more of in my life. So that's stopping, being present each morning, tuning into your life, your people, your heart, and the moments ahead that you really want to be prepared for, that are probably, in your mind at least, the seed of what will be the stuff you want growing more and more in your future. And regularly doing that, sort of taking inventory, being present and taking an assessment of your life and yourself and what's next that matters. And building that in as a discipline, so that you're not just reacting, as you were mentioning earlier, and keeping going in the same rut. It's like a rut race, routines, right? We don't want ruts, right? We want to get up and going and flowing and moving.
I like what you said, building a discipline. Because,
so important.
Yeah.
So important. And oftentimes we're not very disciplined anymore. We're so reactive instead of responsive. And responsive is, I have made a determination of what I do and I choose to do it. Reactive is, I'm just letting whatever is around me pull me out and cause me to react. And if you're on your social media, or if you're in traffic, or if you're just dealing with what happens at the office or someone's mood around you, you're leaving yourself vulnerable to just reacting to those things. And those things are all going to take you somewhere you don't know where you're going. It's not intentional. It's not strategic. It's not to what you're trying to do to cooperate and work with your life, taking it where you want it to go, and or trying to encourage it to go and try to help support it to go. You're being hijacked. So disciplines keep us on track for what we've decided is what we want more of, versus leaving ourselves vulnerable to the susceptibility of reactivity.
So good. Okay. I love it. Okay.
Well, I hope that's not too much, because I just don't even know when to stop sometimes.
No,
but
that's
the 3
great.
points on the left brain piece there in review, right, are number 1, that you would be getting perhaps testing information, which would give you data on yourself. You talk to mentors and counselors and advisors, people who know you better, have more life experience, maybe have you in context with that life experience better than you do of yourself, seeking wisdom of your of your seniors, of your sages around you. And then thirdly, being very intentional to setting up experiences, and wherein you can be present to what happens in you in these various experiences, and using that information and that feedback as a way to know, I want more of that. And then what do I do to be intentional in response to those responses you had to those different experiences. So those are 3 concrete steps that I think we can tell your listeners that will give the left brain data to be able to build on, as if kind of like a blueprint, so that as the passion and purpose, they can start, kind of finding their way in and around that. But I feel like that's kind of a more of a practical way of knowing how to manage the urgency. If we're working on data collection and we're being present, then we're telling ourselves, look, I'm doing everything I can do to build my life from the inside out based on the blueprint of who I am. And then letting the passion and the purpose be able to lead, while this information of how to from the data can join. And we have substantive, practical, concrete, with the aesthetics, the feng shui of life, right? We're building it in a way that it's formed and flows and feels in a way that works for us. And if it works for you, all the people that love you are going to be very happy. But if you're happy and you're content and you're fulfilled and you are producing out of that into our world, anybody who loves you and cares about you will celebrate that. And so don't worry about disappointing other people. Know that if you're true to you and you bring that, it will bring the people that truly love you joy as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And that is such a great reminder for people who worry about, the feelings of parents, of, grandparents, or somebody close to them who's really putting a lot of pressure on them to be something that maybe they're not wanting to be.
Yeah, it's so common. I mean, I don't know if that's still the case, but I feel like a lot of times we're still trying to be people pleasers. That's probably my personality, is I just want everyone to be really happy with what I've chosen to do, and that I fulfilled their expectations, and that I'm not a disappointment. So as you try to manage all of that, manage your audience, right, while you're also trying to be true to you, it can get kind of complicated. But I said, if you work from the inside out and you are true to you, you will have the best life you can have, and the people that truly love you will rejoice with you.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so let's talk about being a life coach, because you talked about, instead of saying I'm a therapist or I'm a counselor or whatever, life coach. So how do you distinguish that between therapy and counseling, and then what do you provide to people?
That's a great question. I don't know, Nancy. My friends and my family will tell you that I feel like I've invented a lot of the things that exist today.
Yeah.
Because I'll just say, when I started life coaching, it didn't exist. So I don't know, what came first on that, whether I did or that did. But about 30 years ago, a lot of the moms, the 30, 40, 50-year-old women that I worked with said, I want you to work with my son. The son was having trouble launching. The son was using too much weed. The son was playing too many video games. The son was doing some things that they knew were sabotaging his ability to move on to the next stage of life. And so I said, well, I think let's call this life coaching, because really, objectively speaking, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be providing tactical tools and angles, insights, techniques like you would do in coaching a sport. It'll be very hands-on. It won't be ooey wooey, talk about our feelings and talk about your past, talk about your dream, whatever a lot of times people think of therapy doing. I wanted to change the image and the paradigm of how it's understood, so that the young men would feel comfortable coming in and having a sense of how that works, because that's a world they already know. Many of them. And even if you haven't been a real big athlete, you still know coaching. But that actually is an established paradigm. Therapy and counseling has always looked like one flew over the cuckoo's nest in the past. It's kind of, and it's been a lot of times like lay on the couch and talk about your mother, and we've had a hard time getting out of that stereotype and that kind of stigma. And my approach has always just naturally been very, very practical. I feel like if you're coming in, you need feedback. You need to be heard. You need to be heard first. You need to be heard, and then given back to you objectively what I think you're really feeling. Because a lot of times what we think we know and how we think we understand our problem is not really accurate. So my approach has always been, let me listen first. I'm going to really take in what I think you think and well you understand it, and then I'm going to do my next step, which is reframing. I'm going to make it a little bit cleaner, a little bit more objective, bring it back to you. The biggest thing I consistently hear in my kind of coaching model, which is kind of why I started calling it life coaching, is because that's kind of actually what I do as a therapist, is people would go 100%. Oh my gosh, absolutely. Oh, hit it on the head. Bullseye. I mean, constantly it was like these strong, like, that's what I'm thinking. That's how I'm feeling. I didn't really quite get it, but now I've got it clarified. So now we've got the understanding of the problem accurate, and like diagnostically, we've got it set right. So now whatever we start doing in response to it will work. A lot of times it's like if you'd come into the doctor and you'd given them these symptoms and they started treating you for cancer and it was really a sinus infection, it's going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have been doing treatments on themselves in terms of what they think they should be doing about their problem. It doesn't work because they don't have their problem understood accurately. So in coaching, I'm making sure I've got that identified and objectively clarified and cleaned up before we even start. And then we start with insights on how to think about it, action steps we can take and what to do about it, journaling to keep a track, a monitoring of what's going on while you're doing it, so you see what's working, what's not working. And so it's very action oriented, it's feedback directed, it's resourced, it's tooled, much like coaching. But the drive for me was when the moms started to say that they wanted their sons in. Mm-hmm. And now basically the practice is probably 80% men, which is fantastic too. It's not even just young men, it's men. We're having a big trend of men being open to therapy now, which is fantastic, where my kids coaching. And we're getting a lot more willingness to kind of understand their vulnerability and their needs for understanding their feelings. Because in our culture, it's just not really strongly emphasized in terms of male masculinity, etc., to be aware of or understand or deal with emotions. And as a result, we stayed away from it because it's so ooey wooey. Mm-hmm. It's so like abstract, and it's not a concrete thing like business. Mm-hmm. Business is like learn these principles, right? Mm-hmm. Sell something for this much, make this much, do a transaction, laws, got all the laws and rules to it. Mm-hmm. Right? Generally, men feel comfortable where there's some very set ways to do things. Mm-hmm. And then if you just learn to do them that way, then you do well. But if we go into how I feel and what to call that and what you're feeling and what I should be doing in response to how you're feeling, many are not quite very competent in that. So that's been kind of another thing that's been fun to educate and orient us as males to that. And I've had to learn by doing therapy for 40 years myself. Fortunately, it's been a great lab for me, and I've needed every hour of it. I've had 10 to 12 hours a day for 40 years, and I'm actually a little better now. So I think Julia would even admit that now. But it's crazy. It's like going to school. I mean, you need an orientation. So anyway, the coaching happened that way. I then could move into the emotional, into the feeling stuff that we also have to understand about ourselves, and the young men needed to know, and eventually the older men needed to know. And that even led into eventually executive coaching for Quick Trip Leadership and for Cancer Treatment Centers of America on a national level, their leadership, Griffin Communications, Channel 6 here, Channel 9 in Oklahoma City. Because companies have realized if our leaders don't have emotional intelligence, right, they can be brilliant at whatever they're doing, and they're fantastic, in making us money, but they're demoralizing the heck out of their people, right? Mm-hmm. Or there's a lot of turnover because of their frustration of their people. They're losing money that way, and they're losing their culture. Mm-hmm. And the big trend in the last 20 years too has been understanding culture in the company. Mm-hmm. That people spend so much time at work, especially the younger people. They're saying, I want this to be more personal. I want this to be more sacred. I want this to be more meaningful. So now in order to keep good people, companies realize we have to invest in the culture. Investing in the culture means that people have to have emotional intelligence. They have to understand feelings. They have to understand relationships. They have to know how to communicate, which was a lot, of course, what you do as a therapist. Those are your basic fundamentals and foundational types of practices that we teach. So life coaching, executive coaching, moved in with the therapy underneath it and around it, which is really what everyone ultimately needs. And that's kind of how this come together. And again, to speak to the young people, I didn't know any of this as I set out. Like, you didn't really know you were going to end up doing a podcast someday. You knew in you what you were curious about, right? You knew what got you really excited. And little by little, as you honored that and took steps in response to that, these things open up. And then you recognize what's opening up, if you're tuned in, and not on the hamster wheel, and then the rat race. And you go, oh wow, this is a gift right here. This is a fabulous opportunity. Oh my goodness, I need to respond to that. I need to water that. I need to nurture that. I need to call that guy back. I need to go to lunch with that dude. I need to take this person. We need to nurture this opportunity, because this is the kind of stuff I'm feeling really excited about. And then we see where that goes. And as it gets traction and builds momentum and starts to take form, you go, wow, look at this now. I'm, not only a counselor, I've become a life coach, an executive coach, got my own building, I'm finishing my second book. I've been speaking all over, and I'm working on my podcast, and I'm going, all of that I did not know ahead. So the young folks, we want to say, you just want to be open and be recognizing and be responding to those things that are speaking to your heart and are really a part, curiously, of what you really want to be doing more and more and more of in your everyday life. And trust the process as you do that. The process is, I know me, I pay attention to what happens in me and experiences, and then I respond to those, and I allow those to take form, and then I nurture those, and then it starts to become the interesting dynamic life. And it will continue to morph, hopefully, and expand and get more true to you as you go. And so, again, that's sort of something that takes a lot of faith to believe in, but you look at other people, you hear their stories, and that helps, I think, encourage you that that's generally how a really interesting, rich life works.
I think you and I are both people of faith too. And so I do think that, there's a path that we're meant to be on, and sometimes it does take a little while to find it. But I do a lot of praying, God, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Please help guide me. Please help open up things that are meant to open up. Meet people that I'm meant to meet.
Yes, that's fantastic. Part of us is, in each of us, there is a part that is that's spirit driven. I don't know how to understand it in the physiology and the psychology and all of that. I think it's important. Key thing is we want to be open to that there is a force, there is a power, and however each person wants to describe it, you and I describe it very similarly in terms of God, and we have kind of a faith model that seems quite similar. But the point is, no matter what it is, there is, to me, a plan, there is a path, and our job in life is to simply find our way on the path. And why would you not seek guidance on the way instead of, it's kind of like me when we go to do country. I always get on one of those tour buses and go around and say, take me around first, show me the lay of the land.
On the big red bus?
Yeah, the big red bus, or going, just have somebody who knows the territory show me, so I don't spend a lot of time going to all the wrong places. So life is like that. The whole thing is like, I don't know where I'm going. Never been where the future is before, right? So I say, God, Spirit, tour leader, tour guide, guide me. I'm all ears. I know I don't know. And I want to get all the clues and all the tips for this future this area I don't know, and I will follow. And so then you're learning to listen, you're learning to watch for cues and clues, to feel and those gut kinds of impressions, those promptings, which again comes back to knowing yourself and being disciplined and being able to be quiet occasionally, to be able to keep that skill honed, that ability to hear and see and feel. There's an old hymn that I grew up with. I don't know if it's even sung anymore. It says, open my eyes, Lord, and open my ears, Lord, and open my heart, Lord. So it's kind of one of my constant prayers. Keep it open. Allow me to hear, see, and feel really well so that I can get where you're wanting me to go and fulfill that as efficiently, effectively, and meaningfully as possible. And we're not. Why not ask? And why not? And again, that's not real. Oftentimes, it's not. You don't know for sure anything. You're sensing. It's kind of like playing that game hot cold, right? Am I getting warm? But when you're warm, when you're hot, you'll know it. And that's kind of where I think you're saying, okay, I think I'm on the right path now.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Okay, so you talked about it just a second ago. Your book. So why don't we talk about that?
You're so nice. Because the book is called The Possibility of You. And what I realize is that there is no limit to all that's in us. And we, because of how we live today, and because of our fear, and because of our low self-esteem, and because of our self-doubts, and because of the busyness of the world, many of us are not cooperating in a responsible way to cultivate that raw potential and that purpose that we're here for. And so a lot of what the world needs is not getting because we're not showing up. And so we can't show up because we can't get out of our own way. And we can't get out of our own way because we're ignorant, we don't know any better. And oftentimes, when we do know, we don't know how to do what we know. Like people say, I know, the biggest thing people say to me, David, but how? I know you're supposed to relax, I know you're supposed to breathe, I'm supposed to just meditate, I'm supposed to just sleep, but how? So my book is on how to do the things, how to think, how to understand your feelings, how to do in a very tactical, almost like engineering manual, how to do the things that we all know we need to do but don't know how to do, so that we can ultimately become a collaborative partner with God in a much more engaged, much more effective way to bring what we're here to bring to the world. And when you get to bring what you're here to bring, it's so much fun, isn't it, Nancy? And it's just so fulfilling.
Yes.
And people just love it because there's, otherwise it's kind of like boring out there, and it's kind of predictable. And when you bring your stuff, it's fresh, and it brings life, and it brings hope, and it brings encouragement. And boy, don't we need more of that. So The Possibility of You, and then the subtitle, my method that I wanted to create a model so that people who like to know how to do things in the proper steps.
Which is me.
It's called the O.A.S.I.S method. And the O.A.S.I.S method O.A.S.I.S obviously is a metaphor for the kind of world we want to live in, right? A beautiful space where it's green, because I love green, and it's got the water, and it's got the safety from the desert of the world, right? But O.A.S.I.S is the metaphor for what I'm helping people live in and be able to have other people live in with us. But it's an acronym for the steps to do it, right? So O is going to be what? What do you think O is? Open. Open. We have to be open. So many people are closed-minded. So many people have got fixed mindsets. So many people already think they know. So many people don't even know they're not open, but they just are in delusion, they're in denial. That if we are going to be able to take in the prompts, take in the signals, take in the world in order to operate, we have to have our eyes wide open. We have to have our heart wide open. We have to have our ears wide open. We have to be open, and we have to allow ourselves to see all there is. So O is for open. A is for analyzing. So when you get open, many times we make quick reactions to what we think we see. And we're oftentimes making biased, stereotypical reactions that are based in the past, based in sometimes bias, prejudice. So the first thing after you take stuff in is I want you to be really astute about analyzing objectively what you're seeing. Much like what I do with clients. I'm open to hearing you. Now I'm going to take all that you're feeling and all that you think you know about your story, your narrative, and I'm going to clean it up and tell you objectively what I see happening. After 50,000 stories, I have patterns understood. So I know where you fit in the pattern of all these feelings and the narrative you put together from your feeling. And we all have those narratives that when we're taking in life, we're doing. So A is analyze and learn to be detached and objective and to check what you think you know from what you're seeing and understanding from it, just like I do in my process as a coach. S is to now be spiritually sensing, like you were mentioning with prayer. Take what you think you know now from this assessment, this analysis, and say, do I get a peace in my spirit from what I think I understand? So when I'm making decisions, I keep feeling as I'm thinking through it until I land and I go, that's it. That has peace. That's got a gut check to how I've understood it, right? So I've been open. I've now taken it in. I now think I've got a good understanding of it. Now, do I get a sensing, spiritual confirmation of how I think I understand it? When I feel it like I'm thinking it, I know it's right. Now I've got alignment. Now it takes me to the I. I now can have the kinds of insights that will work based on a clear understanding of the problem. Now my brain and my spirit and God and all the world comes into concert and says, okay, you get it. Now here are some ideas that will actually respond to that problem. You got it clearly understood. And it will give you the ideas now what to do. And then the final S are the solutions that become manifested in response to those ideas that bring shift. And so the S is for shift. And we're all looking for that next shift. Everything we're doing is, I want life to shift to a little bit better, a little more accurately me, a little more reflective of me, a little more pure of me, where I'm actually living in truth and in the full resonance of what I'm about. And I'm growing and going forward in a way that's rich and interesting. Those shifts are what we're looking for. Now, I always tell people, too, that sometimes shifts just happen to us. Other people make decisions that affect us. Sometimes someone divorces someone else and a shift has occurred. Sometimes health has hit and caused a shift in what you can do with your body and what you have to deal with there. Sometimes a financial hit has occurred in the market or with your job. And so shifts are sometimes imposed upon us in life, and sometimes we have the opportunity to bring them forward in a way that we want them to go. Either way, they're opportunities for change and growth and for something to get better. And so I let people know all things are working together for your good. So it may not look at it at first, but it has the opportunity, whether it's being decided for you by life, or whether you're in the process of moving it forward because you have the opportunity to do that. It's all going to be working for you. You need to believe that and own that and work and according to that faith and according to that belief, so that your emotions of anger and fear don't hijack the process of what you can do about it. And that's a hard thing to do as a human being. So the book, The Possibility of You, subtitle, The O.A.S.I.S Method to Unlocking the Life of Purpose and Passion, just like your show. See, we're doing the same thing, Nance.
I love it.
And then it's based on the for my signature piece is, it's based on over 100,000 conversations with David Leifeste, psychotherapist and life coach. So you think about all these people for like 40 years that have opened their lives to me and their hearts and their stories and the things they've never told anybody, and they've trusted me. We've worked together to course correct and to find their way on to the life they really want to have. All that's gotten into my brain and my spirit has formatted some things that I think universally will help all of us, because I've watched from the front row seat of my chair.
Yes.
What happens next in these folks' lives as they think like this and feel like this and act in response in accordance to the O.A.S.I.S method. So that's the exciting thing about that, and hopefully we'll be able to share it by January.
Okay. I believe that
Thank you. Two
can.
more agreeing.
Yes, no, I believe you can, because I think that your son will be a force in holding you accountable.
Yes.
And January is honestly the perfect time to get it out there. It's after the rush of the holidays, and
Yes.
people are all of a sudden realizing a new year, wanting to focus on themselves just a little bit.
Yes.
And so this is perfect timing for January.
Thank you. I was thinking, I always would make goals in January, like
Same.
most people, right? I had to write down since I was a kid, what am I going to do with my workout? What am I going to do with my spirituality? What am I going to do with
Yes.
my money, right? Try to look at all the areas,
Yeah.
figure out how to just make it a little bit better this year.
Yeah.
So the possibility of you book could be the little handbook that you could use this next year to set up a plan of action based on a 64-year-old man's life's work in the ditches with people.
See, that's what's so neat, though. You are so experienced, and you have had all of these conversations over all of this time. So not only do you have the educational background, but you also have the benefit of having, these conversations with people where you have seen what has developed and seen the patterns and seen, a lot of how they have grown and why.
Yes, nothing's more powerful than 4 decades of what you think being applied and watching what happens.
Yes.
Right? So we were looking at outcome study after outcome study after outcome study with all types of people at all ages. So I've worked with, from like 14 years old to I have a client who's 92.
Wow.
And I've had a couple that was 95 that were coming in. I just loved them. They're so beautiful.
Yeah.
And they were going to yoga and working on their piano. But yeah, so that's tried and true outcome, evidence-based research done from the lab of David Leifeste's office. And what I felt a responsibility to do, Nancy, is too much is given, much is required. I've been given so many gifts from this, and I've learned so much. It's my responsibility to share it. I honestly do not really want to go through what this is going to take. I mean, Luke's starting up social media. I'm going to have to start doing, more talks and stuff. The only one I want to talk to is you. If you and I could just talk every week, everyone else is going to just listen to Nancy. Yeah. Send her your questions. We'll do this. But I do feel it is a responsibility to try to get this conveyed so that other people can understand it. One of my litmus tests was one of my best friends is an engineer, architectural engineer, and he then became his CFO of his company, Doug, and so very, very left-brained. And I said, okay, he's going to be my little experimental rat here. So I asked him to read it, and he just wrote me last night. I might just share with you really quickly. This is probably the most comforting thing, because that's going to be probably the most unable to understand emotional abstract things kind of brain. And yet what he has said was...
Well, you're looking this up. I can't wait for this book. I'm so excited about it. And I feel like so many people in Tulsa and beyond know you, but I want even more people to know. And this is going to be an excellent resource.
Well, Nancy, it's just been such a delight. I can't tell you. I mean, you are such a breath of fresh air, and you got the sweetest spirit, and I love your heart, and I love your mission.
Thanks.
And when I was reading about you, I said, we love the same thing. We want to get to the stories of the folks that are living from their purpose and passion and the journey they've been on and what they've had to go through to do it and how they did it. We want other people to learn from those stories. So Doug just said, just finish the book. My recommendation, don't change anything. And he says, once I got through the definition of O.A.S.I.S, I decided to shift my mindset, which shift is the word, he always uses my language, to the one who has no experience with this O.A.S.I.S model. I wanted to know how one might feel reading about the process for this first time. Although the book flowed for me beforehand, this really convinced me it's perfect. It's just like we had a 4-hour session together and you were still talking to me. All the tools needed explained and defining the whys. All of it carefully curated for the best life. Just missing the hand gestures to accompany your spoken word. He says, congratulations, brother. It's done. I think it's perfect. I've read several help books in the last 3 years. He's been going through a divorce and time of change. And this is my favorite by far. So that was super exciting.
Yeah.
Just the encouragement I needed as I was trying to make my last set of corrections yesterday, going, stop and let it go. let it go.
That's great. You have somebody you can bounce it off of and can give you some affirmations of this is good.
Well, I want to be very strategic. I don't want to take too many people have to do that. It's a pain. But I thought if we can take the furthest left brain and that male engineer, CFO, businessman in his 60s can get something from it and feel it, then all the rest of us will be able to feel it as well, because we're all to the right of that. So
that's so funny. Yeah. Yes, well, I'm looking forward to it. So
thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, We'll be talking again soon, and then in January. And we'll talk about the book when it's actually out in the world too in January.
Well, it's fun that we're neighbors, and here on the east side of your house with the beautiful sunroom and the office, it's just a fantastic place to visit.
I'm glad that you were able to stop by today.
Even before you invite me.
I hope you do. I hope you do. Thank you so much, David. This has been a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap on this week's episode. I want to thank you for listening to the Sharing Passion and Purpose podcast. It means the world to me, and I'd love to connect with you. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sharing Passion and Purpose, and Twitter at Passion Sharing. Also, if you like this podcast, it would mean a lot to me for you to subscribe, rate, and review it. And as always, all my show notes will be available on my website, sharingpassionandpurpose.com.